A little background about me and my roommate in the story. We were both practicing Christians, so I believe in the spiritual side, demons and such. But I had never had any encounters I deemed supernatural per se. That all changed for me about 3 years ago. We were living in a small apartment at the time, where me and my roommate, let's call him Joe from now on, lived at the time. His girlfriend had just gotten back from a mission trip to Haiti and brought home a gift for him. This gift, a crudely carved wooden elephant that she was gifted from a Haitian child. This thing was freaking creepy. It just gave off an eerie vibe just by looking at it. However, Joe, being a good boyfriend, graciously accepted this gift. I somewhat jokingly, but also seriously, expressed how I did not like the mojo surrounding this thing. He basically explained that he thought it was weird, but it was a gift, so he was going to keep it, and at that, keep it in our room. Later that night, I received an unusual text from my neighbor who lived across the hall. We were friends, but never really texted, so this struck me as odd. She asked me, "Are you okay?" I was in the living room watching a movie at the time, so I replied, "Yeah, just relaxing, watching TV." I was met with a response of, "Oh, just pulled in and thought I saw you in your room, pacing back and forth." My heart dropped. I was home alone at the time, and I immediately ran into the room to find nothing but stillness. I made a glance at the wood-carved monstrosity, which almost felt as if it was staring. Now unsettled, but not completely startled, a couple of hours later, it was time for bed. By this time, my roommate had already returned. I told him about the text, and he mainly brushed it off. I never have been a great sleeper, so this experience didn't help me get into that state of rest. However, eventually my mind drifted asleep. This sleep did not last long. A feeling I have never felt before came over me. My eyes felt as if they were glued open, and I didn't notice myself blinking. My body was strapped to the bed, not able to move an appendage. All I had control over were my eyes. I immediately looked to my roommate across the room, who is dead asleep, with all my might trying to let out anything from my mouth, but not even a whimper. My eyes then looked to the foot of my bed to see a sight that gripped me with crippling fear, an imposing outline of nothing but black, so black it stood out amongst the rest of the darkness. There was no face, no true shape, just the vague structure of a humanoid creature that looked as if it was a void absorbing darkness and growing even blacker by the second. I moved my eyes up and tried to avoid the thing, but it was so tall it was hard to not see. Then it felt as if my chest was crushing. I looked down to the pressure on my chest. It now appeared the thing was coming over me. It wasn't crawling over my bed, just levitating closer and closer, until I was forced to stare at nothing but the void before me. There was no emotion, no noise, nothing, just darkness. I don't remember the thing leaving or me falling asleep. I just woke up in the morning. I was still shaken. However, when I looked to the floor of the room and saw that wood-carved creature had fallen off its shelf and rolled a solid 3 feet to the foot of my bed, I felt ill from the fear. I immediately decided the events were connected. I have never suffered from sleep paralysis before or after this event. We got rid of the wooden elephant and then blessed each room of the house and had no issues until we moved out. I truly believe this wood-carved object had something attached to it. I'm not very informed on the subject, but it was of Haitian descent, so my first thought was voodoo. I was going over to my mom's house for dinner one night because my parents are divorced. My sibling and I went into the house and saw our mom and her boyfriend sitting on the couch. They had a gray gift bag with a tear in the side of it. She asked me if I wanted these old dolls in the bag. My mom used to be a secretary at a school, and a woman came in with 3 dolls in a bag. The lady apparently said to my mom to give them to family. I said that I wanted the dolls because I thought that they were pretty. The doll wore an emerald green dress and a matching hat with a black feather. The other 2, I don't remember much, but all I know is that they had blonde hair and one of them had an umbrella. After that, we went out with our mom and her boyfriend to a nearby pizza place. After we ordered, a small black feather fell onto my empty plate. I quickly brushed it off and looked up at the ceiling, but saw nothing that it could have came from. Later that night, I was back at my dad's house, and me and my sibling were playing with the dolls. I know that the lady said that the dolls aren't to be played with, but my sibling and I were pretty young, and we really wanted to play with them. Around midnight, while I was sleeping, I got woken up by my bed shaking violently. The dolls were next to my bed in the gray bag I got from my mom. I looked down into the bag, and the dolls were all there. I brushed it off as nothing, because I was tired, and went back to sleep. The next day, I went to school early in the morning, because I went to the same school that my mom worked at, and she had to be there to open up the school. My mom had me drop off some papers to a classroom. When I got to the classroom, the doorknob from the door across the hall began to shake violently. The doorknob was locked, and it sounded like someone was trying to get into the hallway from the classroom. I quickly dropped all of the papers and went back to the office where my mom was. I told her what had happened, but she said it was probably nothing. The day after, early in the morning, I told my mom that I didn't want the dolls anymore, so we took them to the school that morning and gave them away to a kid of someone that worked in the school. No other occurrences have happened since. I'm not sure that this is some weird hallucination that my child brain came up with, or if those dolls were something more sinister. I was always fascinated by old mysterious objects, so when I stumbled upon a small antique shop in the outskirts of town, I couldn't resist going inside. The shop was filled with all sorts of oddities and trinkets, but one item caught my eye in particular. It was a small wooden box with an intricate carving on the lid. The person working told me that this was a cursed item, but I didn't believe in such things. I thought it was just a clever marketing ploy to sell the item for a higher price, but as I held the box in my hands, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off about it. Against my better judgment, I decided to buy it anyway. As soon as I brought the box home, strange things started happening. Objects would move on their own, and I would often hear whispering of voices in the middle of the night. At first, I brushed it off as my imagination, but the occurrences became more frequent and intense. One night I woke up to find the box open on my bedside table. Inside there was a small, intricately carved figure of a woman. I tried to get rid of the box, but no matter how many times I threw it away or gave it away, it always seemed to come back to me. It was as if the box had a mind of its own and was determined to stay with me. The strange occurrences continued to escalate, and I started to feel like I was being watched all the time. I became paranoid and couldn't sleep at night. The only time I felt safe was when I was away from the box. But even then, I couldn't escape its curse. I started having vivid nightmares about the woman in the figurine, and I could feel her presence everywhere I went. It was as if she had become a part of me, haunting me wherever I went. I knew I had to get rid of the box for good, but I was too scared to open it and remove the figurine. I decided to seek help from a paranormal expert who told me that the box was cursed by a vengeful spirit. She performed a ritual to break the curse, and finally, the box and figurine were gone. The strange occurrences stopped, and I could finally sleep peacefully at night. I learned my lesson to never underestimate the power of the supernatural, and I'll never forget the terror that cursed box brought into my life.